Okay, so we're going to have a look at a few built-in dynamic tools to Substance that you can use basically straight out of the box. And I'm going to start off with this spray colour. So under my brushes, I've typed dynamic in the filter and it's given me all my dynamic brushes. So if I select this spray colour and create a new paint layer, I can paint across here and I will get a variation of colour. Which is great. Not necessarily the colours I'd choose, but that doesn't matter because we can choose them. So first of all, under parameters, we've got how many colours. So we can have one colour, two colours, or a custom gradient ramp. I'm going to go one colour to start with, and that colour is going to be my roof kind of green. Underneath that, we have our hue jitter, saturation jitter and luminance jitter. So I'm going to increase my saturation jitter and decrease my luminance jitter and then go. And now I'm going to get lots of variations of just that colour, which is great because now I can adjust it. So if I go along the bottom, just where my dark logs start, let me go into isolation mode to start with. I'm just going to paint across the bottom here to get some sort of variation. That's good. And now if I adjust my layer blending properties down, I can just make it down to a level where it's just about visible and is adding some sort of variation to our model. Of course, we could go down to our channel properties, and we could also increase our our roughness. So I want the roughness to be a little less than normal, or less than there. I'm going to take my brush down a little bit and just do a little bit more brushing, and that's going to shiny up those little areas, further kind of blending it together. Okay. So if I then go to a two colour, we can go and then pick perhaps one of our browns that we've used and do the same, and then it will alternate the colours between our green and our brown and do the same thing. That might be a bit strong perhaps, so I can just come to our layer opacity and just bring it down until I'm happy with it. Similarly, I can do it anywhere I want. I can put it all around just to add some variation in. I think perhaps my shininess is too much up there, so because it's a brush stroke, I can change it, and different strokes will have different opacities. So I'm just going to brush it in just a little bit, perhaps make it a little bit bigger to cover greater patches. Okay, so that's one of our dynamic tools, and between videos I'll do the other walls, and then I'll come back in and we'll have a look at another tool. So I'll talk to you. Now, this dynamic brush we use for the colour spray is a material, so you can use it with other things. So if we go pick a different brush, for example, let's pick a dirt brush, you'll see that my colour jitter here stays the same, which is great. And if you don't have it, you can find it by simply typing in jitter up here and then making sure you've got no libraries filtered, and then we have the colour jitter here, and we can go in and use that with just about anything we want. So I could then go perhaps back up to my brush settings, add some jitter, some position jitter, angle jitter, perhaps even a bit of size, and now when I paint with it, if I'm on the right layer, I am on the right layer, it should do the job. It doesn't seem to be doing the job, so let me just disable a few layers here. No, I can see it was. It's just my I think my opacity is down so low I can't really see it. There we go. So as well as this original kind of just blotchy shape there that we've got for that, we can go in and break it up just by using the material rather than the whole dynamic brush. There we go. We still get the colour jitter, you know, effect as we're going through. So let's just turn everything else back on. See, it's all a bit much at that level. So we'll take our layer and just take that down until it's just showing, essentially. There we go. And you could always go in and erase some, but yeah. So, you know, colour jitter is a material. You know, you can find it and use it with any brush, not just the colour spray. So that's that one. Next then, we're going to try and integrate this chimney into the roof a little bit better because it looks kind of stuck on. You know, there's no kind of texture consistency to bring them together. So let me just select the chimney to start with, and no, I won't isolate it. I'm going to leave it as it is so I can see what's going on. So let me get back to our jitter brush, or our colour spray rather. There we go. So I'll select on that, and I'm going to set my colours. There we go, that one and that one. And now I'm going to add a new layer, and then I'm going to start to brush around the bottom here. So that will, you know, start to darken it up and bring it into kind of some sort of alignment at least. There we go. Let's take that down a little bit, not too much, just enough. I don't want it to be so pale that it is invisible, but I also don't want it to be so strong it's overwhelming. There we go, somewhere around there. And then I shall do the same for the roof. Now, is this right roof? Let's have a look. So isolate it. Yes, it is. And I'm going to do the same. Oops, I'm going to add a new layer first so I can control the opacity independently. There we go, just pop that around there to kind of bring it in and together. There we go, and then I'll take the opacity down so it's not overwhelming, and that should bring it together a little bit. But what I wanted to really show here was a particle brush. So let me put a new brush layer over the top of that, a new paint layer. And then over here I'm going to type in particle for my what? Filter. And I'm just going to untick the brushes filter, and I'll get all of my particle options out here. So what I'm after is leaks. So if I select leaks now, I've still got my material on, but now I'm using the leaks particle brush. Just going to make that a bit bigger, and as I paint that down, let's make it a bit smaller, that will make more sense. If I brush that down now, it's going to kind of create a kind of smeary particle down from around the chimney. So as if, you know, something that's got there and it's kind of slid down next to it. We can change this out for another material if we wanted to. So let's just untick that and go and have a look at our materials. And I want something kind of dirty, yeah. I think I've got a rubber somewhere which might do the job. Let's have a look. Rubber. There we go. Rubber, black. Let's have a look at our parameters on this. No stencil. There we go. So under here we've got our seed, which we can update. We can take our colour density down, flatten the relief. Yeah, it's okay. We've got a rubber colour, but let's have a look at that on a new layer to see how that looks. See, and that starts to create some sort of, you know, really dirty kind of area. It's a shame I'm doing it down here really. I haven't got a lot of room to really mess with it. So let's do it along the top, and then you can see a little bit better as to what's going on there. So it's creating streaks of kind of a random length down that roof there. And if we go to the particle settings, we can do a certain amount about that. So what have we got? We've got our spawn speed, sorry, that's spawn spread, which I'm going to increase, and we have a spawn speed which will generate more. Let me just move that down, there we go. You could kind of get some sort of, how can I put it, thatching out of this, I think, if you really worked hard on it. We have draw and bump, we have all sorts of options, but what I'm looking for is, we have a gravity factor, so I can increase that factor and they will become longer because gravity is acting on them in a much harsher way. Let's take that down, perhaps somewhere around there. We've got velocity, inherit velocity random, so that's how fast they will spread. Oops, it's in the middle of a save, I can't undo it just yet. Oh, come on. It's taking longer and longer. I've got a lot of maps in this one, so I'm not really that surprised. I'll speed this up now. There we go. Let's undo that. We have a particle life, so that's how long the particles will maintain. So if I take that down to a low number, I should get really small kind of splots, and if I take it up to quite a high number, I should get much longer ones. So there we go. So actually I quite like that, but not in that kind of configuration. I don't want any height on it. I do want rough and I don't want metal. Let's have a look. So rubber roughness, I want that quite high, and then I'm going to paint up here and we get some kind of weathering coming down our roof, which is nice. I like it. And you know, the whole point was to put that somewhere around the chimney, so I'm just going to pop that there to do something with that. And if I switch to left roof, I'll do the same on the other side. There we go. And if it's too strong, of course, we can always, sorry, I did that on its own, on a different layer. There we go. If it's too strong, of course, we can always bring down the opacity to blend it in a little bit more and make it a little less, what's the word, striking. Is that a good word? I don't know. There we go. Let's take that down a little bit as well. Okay, so that's a particle brush, and you can do all sorts of things with those. With these ones, it's going to be a little bit difficult because if I go to front wall and paint down there, see, it's kind of dependent upon the individual UV islands here. So because my islands are kind of long and in that direction, and these ones are short in a similar direction, it doesn't work so well, but it still does give us some drip down pieces on our boards there. I'm not going to do them on those because it just doesn't make sense. If you wanted to put some on here, we can change the direction. So if I go to my particles, and where are we? Spread, turbulent, stencil. It's not where I expected it to be. There is a direction somewhere. Well, I'm afraid I've come up blank on that one. But you can change the UV direction. I can't see it for the moment, and I won't waste your time by trying to find it desperately. Okay, so I think I want one more thing in this video. and we're going to use another dynamic tool to put some metal work into this, which I'm going to change to woodwork hopefully, but we'll have a look at that next. Okay, so next I want to put some kind of fixings in this, because we haven't modelled them in. That would be insane. We would up the geometry so much that it would become a difficult model to actually use. So let's just minimize that, and I'm going to click off that and type in nails, and then untick the materials things, and then I'm going to type nails correctly, or nail. There we go. So there is a nail tool. So with that selected, and on my front wall, let's add a new layer. I can now brush over this, and it will put nails over the, wherever I brush, essentially. So I don't necessarily want it to be a nail. What I probably want it to be is some sort of woody texture. So actually in this case I don't want a layer. I don't want a paint layer, I want a fill layer. And I'm going to use this to paint a black mask. So let's go to add paint. There we go. So I've added a black mask, add paint, and now if I take that down a little bit, I'm going to use the nail tool and then paint down where I want a fixing. So I'm probably going to want some sort of fixings on the side of these. I might need to change my brush settings here, because I think my scales and jitters are probably a little, I think angle jitter is probably not going to make a difference. Spacing I want to bring down a bit, because I'm just going to draw and swipe essentially, and I can't fix on that one because that's not this layer. As you can see, I've been drawing merrily on this one. So if I pop those in there, I could vary the position. Oh, that's a bit far out, so is that. Right, so instead of just using this to push on a to use the nail texture, which might be suitable in some cases, but I'm thinking these are probably going to be wooden pegged. We can just change this material here. So if I now go back to or remove my filter, go into materials, type in Norse, which is where all my materials should be. No, I mean smart materials, of course. We can change that material to we can't change that material to that because it's a smart material. Silly man, sorry, my fault. Let's go in here and type in wood, and I'll use the rough wood again. You'll see I get that rough wood there, and I'm going to update the colour. There we go, to perhaps the darker version, no, the lighter version. But below this I also want to add another fill layer, but this one I only want really to have height on, so then I'll give it some height, and now we've got some height on our peg fixings there. So I can go and put those pegs in anywhere I want now, simply by updating my paint layer here. So perhaps I'd want some up under the eaves. I'm not going to be regular about it. I'm going to try and have it a little bit random. Perhaps I'll have some on this side. Oops. Perhaps miss a few, just to get it going. So that's using one of the dynamic brushes, the nail tool, just to add a bit of extra detail. And actually what I want to do is transfer some of this to the door, and also perhaps I've actually modeled, I didn't make this, We've actually got some pegs modelled on there, so I don't really have to do that. But I do notice my door doesn't have any of this kind of colour jitter we put on, so I'm going to do that in a moment or two. Okay, so yeah, you don't have to use the say the nails brush to put specifically nails on it. You can use it to create a mask, do all sorts of things you want. Okay, so that's that one, and I think that's probably about it for this. I'll probably add that door detail in a few moments, but yeah, I will talk to you in another video.